Carlon Voran, welcome to the Pirate.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So we usually start these out with what are your qualifications?
I am a instrument-rated commercial single-engine land and sea pilot. I also have a rotorcraft with private privileges.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It's awesome. Do you get to fly?
I haven't flown a helicopter since I got the rating, basically. So
You also have a tailwheel endorsement,
I
right?
do have a tailwheel endorsement. Yeah.
Nice. So what is your official title at Lake Clark?
I'm not sure that I really have an official title. I'm involved in a lot of the management aspects of the Port Ellsworth side and some of the systems that we work with on both sides as far as payment processing and pilot training and training systems, training programs.
A lot of the onboarding and the recurrent training material, you write that. But you also help with, is it just Part 91 or 135?
I do both Part 91 and 135 flying as well.
And you're usually flying hunters, right?
The 135 work that I'm involved in is primarily in the fall with hunters, or it's shorter hops with the school district flying in the winter. And then the rest of the 91 flying is through the lodged on floats or wheels. So.
Nice. So how did you get started at Lake Clark?
So my family knows the Ellsworth family. We go way back there. I actually found a picture in one of our photo albums at home of me sitting on Glenn's lap when I was like 4 years old or something.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. I actually learned to fly at a very young age out at Port Ellsworth. Mm-hmm. I was 14 and went out there to work for the summer. And at that time, Glenn's dad, Babe Ellsworth, was out there he'd come over from Hawaii, where they were living at the time. Both Babe and Mary came back, and then he taught me how to fly in a T-craft on floats. Nice. So I soloed when I was too young to do so, but I don't think they can do anything to me now. So.
Fair enough. So where did you grow up? You grew up in Anchorage? Or?
Yeah, I was born in Alaska, in Anchorage here, and actually grew up in Palmer.
Oh, yeah.
In the valley.
Nice. And so after going out there at 14, did you stay out there, or did you go back when you were 18? I continued to work throughout the summers, throughout finishing at high school and throughout finishing college. And then after college, I ended up working for Cessna Aircraft Company in Wichita, Kansas. No way.
As an avionics engineer.
Wow.
About 13 years or so, 13, 14 years.
Tell me about that.
I started out in the production side of the avionics engineering. Worked on the Citation Excel program. Before that was certified, and once it got certified and going, stayed with them for a while. Then I transferred into the service center side of it, which supported all the legacy products of the Citation size and above. And we did a lot of the at that time frame, a lot of the TCAS and ground procs type mandates were coming out. So we were going and figuring out solutions and putting packages and engineering packages and STCs together to be able to retrofit all those required systems into the older legacy aircraft at that time.
Wow. So with those systems, they're looking not only just straight down like a radar altimeter, but they're looking forward as well and creating like a...
Yeah, so the TCAS, the early... the TCAS system is based off of your transponder. This pulses that the transponder is putting out and other aircraft are receiving, and it's broadcasting location and position. And then if you have a sophisticated enough transponder receiver, it's also going to see that and know where it's at. And it paints looks like a radar picture. It's what the triangles and stuff are put up. That's where that's coming from, as a certain specific level of transponder, and then you have a TCAS system that is able to interpret that and display it.
And are they displaying just that data, or are they pulling from like primary radar from the centers as well?
A true TCAS 2 system is primarily aircraft to aircraft based. Then they have I forget what the Garmin calls it, but when you get into the service area, then it's pulling information coming from the service area, from the ground-based stations, is pushing it out to you. And it's not strictly the TCAS system working, but it's coming from other sources as well.
So that would be like a radar environment-like approach, or
Right. Like in Alaska, the only place you would find that is probably obviously the Anchorage Bowl, Fairbanks, possibly King Salmon. I don't know if they have it down in King Salmon or not. But
Interesting. So you did that for 13 years, and then what happened?
Well, my wife's from Colorado, and I was from here, and we're living in Kansas, which we love. That's where my extended family was at, so I got to spend a lot of time with them that I didn't growing up. But we both were like, man, we kind of miss the mountains. Wonder what's out there. At that same time, Glenn Jr. called me and said, "Hey, we've got a position that we think you're well suited for," and so made the jump and moved up here and moved my family out to Port Ellsworth.
And that was when?
That was the winter of 2008, 2009.
Nice. What was that move like for your wife? Had she spent any time in Alaska or villages?
So we had come and visited several times in the summer.
Okay.
She never spent the winter here. I think the saving grace of when we did it is we came right before Christmas and just after Christmas. So the first winter wasn't this huge 9-month long period of time.
Yeah.
It was just the smaller end, and from New Year's on to Christmas, or New Year's on to spring, where the light's getting better. And because we had our youngest was 3 years old, and our oldest was 7, I believe. So we still had fairly small kids. They weren't really small. If they were smaller than that, I think that would have been kind of detrimental to doing that move. Just feeling locked and trapped in the village in the dark months of this winter.
Yeah. So how did she handle that? You said that was an easier transition, but I mean, still, it
still was. I mean, it was still difficult. We came from a small town where she was able to put the kids in a stroller, walk down the street a couple blocks to the library. Mm-hmm. They had activities for kids structured around kids. They had young mom Bible studies she could go to, and just things she could get involved in. And when we moved there wasn't a lot going on, so that was a big adjustment. Yeah. It wasn't easy per se, but it was easier than it could have been.
Right.
It still was quite an adjustment, and that's probably the number one thing that I see is if your spouse doesn't enjoy it, then there's no point in being there, because it's got to be fun for everyone.
Yeah. You both have to be psyched about it and pulling in the same direction.
Yep.
So the job you got with Lake Clark, was that the job you still have, the kind of taking care of a lot of administrative stuff and filling in flights?
It was primarily more in charge of the ground operation aspects in the Port Ellsworth side, managing the ground personnel that were there throughout the summer and then throughout the winter too as well. And then it kind of, once I picked up my commercial rate, I did have a commercial rating. I did not have a float rating yet, and my hours were low when I first came up. So once I was able to build my hours to what they needed, then I started flying for them.
Nice. So what have been some of your most memorable flights? Flying out of Port Ellsworth there.
I remember coming back from Anchorage on a medevac. I was not the pilot. We had medevaced an individual into Anchorage. Mm-hmm. We were coming back, and it was pretty heavy icing conditions. Ooh. Aircraft wasn't able to hold altitude, so we're descending down into the pass to get down to lower weather, and it was super windy. We had to make the backhaul worth it, I guess, or to make it at least not a total loss with just the backhaul. We've decided to load up 55-gallon barrels full of Jet A, flying back out, and strap those down. And there's some pretty heavy turbulence. We'll leave it at that, but we survived, and the aircraft survived, and everything's good.
That's awesome. Was this in a 99?
It was, yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So you fly from Port Ellsworth out to the Bristol Bay area a lot, and Katmai and...
Yeah, in the summer, and for the lodge work, you're asking. So yeah, primarily we go into Lake Clark National Park, Katmai National Park,
Mhm.
and then some of the areas just bordering the parks
Mhm.
we'll venture into. And most of the time we're on floats for a lot of that. Just it opens up where we can go,
Yeah.
and then some of the coastal stuff we'll do with the 2 Stensons or 3 Stensons that we've got on bush wheels to go land on the beach and
Nice.
play around there.
So, what you you got your private and instrument in the States?
So I got my private license in Alaska right before I went down to college,
Okay.
and then got my instrument and commercial when I was working at Cessna. They had an employees flying club
Oh,
at
nice.
discounted rates, and they also, when the G1000 came out, they put the G1000 into the club planes first to put hours
Oh,
on it. So
nice.
I was able to be one of the group of people that was the first ones flying the G1000 glass.
Nice. That's
It was
awesome.
really neat.
Pretty big game changer, right?
Yeah, it was. The situational awareness when you're flying a glass cockpit like that is incredible.
Yeah.
To the point where they didn't really know how to handle partial panel,
Yeah.
because when you turn something off, reversionary mode, and it shows you everything you need on the other side. So they're putting sticky notes on the glass. Okay, now you don't have this, you don't have that, and it's like, well, okay, I'll just.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, did they have synthetic vision at that point, or
No, they didn't.
okay?
That wasn't fully developed yet,
Okay.
and they didn't actually have their autopilot developed. Garmin didn't have the autopilot. So when the G1000 for the singles was first put in, they used a King autopilot,
Mhm.
and the two didn't talk to each other as far as the roll data. So if you were to take the MFD off the G1000 and pull it back and tip it back, you'd see a turn coordinator blindly mounted behind it, and that was giving the roll data to the autopilot.
No, right. Steam gauge.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
That's how the roll data for the wings level and stuff was given to the King autopilot.
That's pretty crazy.
But it worked.
Yeah.
You had to enter everything. Like now you enter stuff through the Garmin, and then it talks to the autopilot. You used to have to enter it in the Garmin, and that was just like for your heads up, put the markers on where you needed them.
Mhm.
Then you'd put everything into the King autopilot, and that's what was actually flying the thing. But
Oh, gotcha.
it worked.
Yeah, these were just reminders, but that's what it was actually doing. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
But they got their stuff.
Yeah.
up and
Now
fully.
it talks to itself quite efficiently. It's really, if you get the Garmin glass with the Garmin autopilot, it's as close as flying itself as you can. And I think they've actually got some auto stuff going on with it too that I don't keep up with it as much anymore. But
Yeah, I think some of the Cirrus, right,
Mhm.
or Diamond, maybe. No, I think Cirrus have
like auto land or something.
Yeah, I believe so. There's like a big button, makes all the calls and everything.
Yep.
Which is pretty wild. So you fly around on bush wheels, you fly around on floats. What are some of your favorite places to go to? You go out to see the bears?
Yeah, we go down to Brooks Camp. That's a popular place.
Yeah.
It's one of the most used or most visited places in Katmai. It's probably what Katmai is known for.
Yeah.
Is Brooks Camp with the bears at the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a fun one. It does become during the peak season, it's pretty crowded.
Really?
So you have to be. It's not like this exclusive wilderness experience. It's still a great place to be, and you can see bears close by in a safe environment, and you're not contributing to altering their behavior any more than it already is. It's not. So it still has its merits. It's really, I'm not knocking Brooks at all, but it's not the private wilderness experience that some people are hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, what's it? I'm sure you've gotten caught in some squirrely situations in the little VFR planes. Did any spring to mind? Where?
There's a few times that when I was younger and a little more naive, you get yourself in situations and you hopefully learn the right lesson to make a different choice the next time. And I've like most pilots, I think that they've done that. And I've got a few of those stories too, where and most of them involve knowing when to say no,
Yeah.
whether it's to somebody else or to yourself.
Yeah.
and trying to turn around, and a lot of them involve, it's low weather and fog.
Mhm.
Sometimes, a couple times, there's been a couple times where I've been on some rough water where you look at it and you're like, yeah, I could get in there, and I was able to get in there, and then you're like, I don't think I can get back off now because the spot I got into is a little shorter than I than I originally thought. But
So what are you doing in those situations?
You make the safe choice. If it's too much, you don't try it. You have to
Mhm.
sit there and hopefully tie your plane up where it doesn't get beat up, or sink the floats if you need to. I've never had to sink the floats, but
Oh, so sinking the floats, you just like fill them with water and put it
Yeah.
and beach it so that
yeah,
it doesn't move.
pull up the beach. It doesn't move.
Oh wow, that's pretty wild. And so then you'd be waiting until conditions improved and then doing a confined area takeoff.
You'd wait till it improved, and then so if the lake is a normal lake we go into where it's big enough to get in and out of.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I got into that situation is there was a small cove where the waves were not as tall as the rest of the main lake,
Mm-hmm.
and that area was shorter. So you'd wait till the winds calms down and the lake calms down, and then you're fine. Get off and get going.
Nice. So with the tail wheels, you're flying those out onto beaches and off airport strips.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like?
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is Alaska, so there's a bunch of guys that do it, and there's a bunch of guys that do it way better than I do it.
Mm-hmm.
They got cubs and they go out all the time and do it. It takes gravel bars and beaches, and then tundra. Gravel bars are probably the easiest thing to start on.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, they're pretty level. You learn to read the terrain, learn to read what the material is you're landing on,
Mm-hmm.
and those are really fun. You start moving into beaches, you still got the same issues with the type of material landing on, how firm is it going to be, being able to read that. But then you've got a lot of beaches have an angle to them, a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
tilt, so it's a little like another level up. And then tundra is pretty much completely different because you're trying to figure out if it's level enough to land on, rough enough, what kind of surface it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're landing uphill, landing downhill, sided hill, and just there's a lot more to take in. So that, it takes a little bit longer to get used to doing that, a lot of practice to do that. But it's a lot of fun. All those are, I mean, that's the reason you do it is because it's fun, right?
Absolutely. So what's it like? What technique are you using when you're taking off on a beach and it's sloped or on some terrain that's sloped?
Ideally, I mean, you're still trying to do, you're trying to keep the wind that you're on your nose, right? You want,
Mm-hmm.
keep the wind in your favor. If you can quarter down the
Mm-hmm.
beach, if it's long enough, you can lessen that severity of the angle by
Mm-hmm.
angling down toward the water a little bit if you can.
Gotcha.
Other than that, you're doing rudder control and possibly some brake
Oh yeah.
to keep that tail from swinging down the beach. Just just with gravity, swinging down the beach, and then you also, depending on how slant it is, you usually got some aileron. You get your downslope wheel up a little bit.
Gotcha. So get the
Get it
wings
up.
level.
But you got to be careful too. If it's super steep, you don't want to be rolling hard and rolling that upslope wing into the beach either. So you got to be aware of what's surrounding you.
Feel your wingtips. Make
Mhm.
sure that you're not.
Yeah, watching them, they're not dragging.
Yeah. So when you go out in the Stinson is 2 seats, right?
So we have
There.
we have two Stinsons. We have a 108
Mhm.
and we have a 10A.
Yeah.
10A, it was certified originally as a three seat aircraft,
Mhm.
and we operate just with pilot and co-pilot, just with two.
Gotcha. And so you're taking people out to hunt or fish with all their gear, right? And then pulling them back in and
Right.
cram full and
Yeah. This the Stinson, you can't. It's not. It's hard to put too much in it because of the size that you've got, the
Right.
space you have to load in it. So
you run out of volume.
you run out of
before
volume before you
Run out of weight.
run out of weight.
Yeah.
If you do everything else right.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah.
And so, who are you taking out? Are these people who have like saved up for their entire lives, or these celebrities, or these people who do it semi regularly? Like, who's your bread and butter client when you're
So the 91 clients, those guys, it can be a kind of a collection of, you get all kinds. There's people that have saved their entire lives to come up and see the parks. There's a lot of people that are trying to, for lack of a better term, collect all the parks.
Yeah.
They're, hitting all of them. And so they want to go do something in each park. There's the hunters. I'm not the hunters that we fly under 135 rules. I'm not involved a lot with them other than just I'm a bus driver basically, take a taxi driver.
Gotcha.
So I don't know a whole lot about if they've saved up a bunch or not.
Gotcha.
Based on the cost of most of those hunts, I imagine. Imagine a lot of people probably have saved quite a bit, or they have enough that they don't care. So
yeah. So you're getting guys that are just everyday Joes who had a dream, and some guys who maybe they're just a baller and are doing it to get up somewhere.
Yeah, I think a lot of the national park visitors that we, a lot of those clients, those are people that have, that they have a purpose. They're trying to go collect the parks, see the parks, and enjoy something about each of the parks.
Yeah,
and there's all kinds of people in that aspect. A lot of the hunters, there's a cost factor level that goes into play there. So,
so like the cost per pound of meat, or
just the cost of going out and hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because if you're doing it guided, there's the guide cost, and just Google what it costs for a guided Alaskan hunt. Sometime you'll be floored.
Really?
And then if you're doing it by yourself, you're chartering the airplane. For whatever distance you are, that rate's pretty high. If you're doing it with a lodge, a lot of times it's you may not be the only person on the trip. So then sometimes the price isn't maybe the cost of you. It's not like you by yourself, so it may be a little cheaper. And we're also, the locations that we're going, they're known locations, so we don't have to go scout ahead. See what they are, right? We've been there before, and
so it's logistically simpler, which makes
it's logistically simpler for us, so it makes it cheaper for them in the long run.
Nice. Yeah, flying the tourists in the summer is always a treat. They're just psyched to get out there and see
They just love it, don't they?
Yeah, it's like a totally different vibe, and I love flying. I don't really care who I fly. Enjoy it, but when people are just like super psyched because they've been saving up for it and they've been planning the trip for years, and these are their last couple of national parks that they have to tick off, and you get out through there and you go through Lake Clark Pass, and they're just tickled pink the whole time.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's neat to see them. Just the joy that they have experiencing it and seeing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, getting to see a moose or a bear on the way. It's rare enough coming through the pass, so it's got to be a treat going out to like Brooks Camp.
Yeah, and getting them to see, if you're able to land and get close to one, that's a whole another experience. That's really pretty cool. Which there's a lot of lodges out there that do that. So guys that do what I do, it can kind of become mundane a little bit, but you just have to take a step back and realize that this is pretty incredible, and it's something that people pay a lot of money to do. So and I've got hard drive after hard drive of bear pictures. At some point I was like, I don't need to take a camera today, but they're still, they're still really fun to be around and watch. Just see how they interact with each other and with people in a safe way, of course.
So are you like the people are at a distance, or what makes it safer than in other areas? Just the exposure that the bears get
at Brooks, or where? So Brooks Camp have boardwalks and paths that you primarily stay on. The boardwalks are elevated to get you out of the bear's path, and there's big gates on either end to keep bears from interacting, to keep human and bear interactions at a minimum or non-existent. If you look at the way, like if you're up Fairbanks or somewhere else in the state and you come across a brown bear and it sees you and then smells you, it's going to take off running. That's the natural instinct. That's the natural reaction you want.
Yeah.
I want from a bear to do.
Yeah.
Brooks, they are in their natural environment. They are behaving very naturally. It's not a zoo. They're not tame, but the response to humans is different than what you would see from a truly wild bear. A rabbit on yours there.
Yeah.
And that's just from years of being exposed to humans.
Yeah.
Not in a negative aspect. You know, there's not a negative interaction with them where they're very strict about food and having food on your person or flavored water, drinks, any of that. You know, they're trying to prevent the bears from seeing people as a food source or as providing a food source for them, and that prevents, you know, negative interactions from taking place.
Nice.
But the interactions that you see then, the reason the bears are closer is because they're used to the presence of humans.
Nice.
To the point where, and this is kind of, I think it's pretty great. It's kind of funny. There was one year when the sows and cubs, they will, you know, if a boar, the male bear, is out there feeding, they'll sometimes come after the sow and cubs or kick them off or go after the cubs if they're in the same section of the river. So one year, this female had figured out that humans don't hurt her and humans don't hurt the cubs. And the bears don't get harmed by them and the humans don't harm the bears. So she would bring her cubs, camp them close to where people were, and then go fish in the river with the male bear. It's like, so it's like free, she figured out, hey, it's free babysitting. You're going to sit here and watch me. I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. So that was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
And that was pretty neat.
That's pretty wild. So what are some other memorable areas that you get to fly to a lot?
Well, we've got several volcanoes in Lake Clark National Park.
Yeah.
There's several volcanoes in Katmai National Park as well. Flying around those is pretty great too. They're different. I mean, it's a different volcano than like in Hawaii. It's not the big lava pyroclastic explosion where this, you know, lava flow. There's mostly ash and steam when they do explode. So they look a little different than what like the Hawaiian volcanoes are, but a lot of them are still, most of them are actually still active, and they're steaming when you fly by them.
Yeah.
If the weather's high enough where you can see that going by them, you can smell the sulfur.
Oh, wow.
You can see the cinder cones. It's pretty sweet because you're pretty close to them.
That's awesome. And a cinder cone is, remind me?
It's probably a phrase I've made up, but it's the top of where the explosion came from and the lava dome or whatever is capped right there.
And it like breaks off during an explosion?
It probably would if it would violently explode. But most of the time it's just like kicking steam out, and you can see there's snow around it, but not on there, so you can tell there's some heat
Nice.
on it. So there's one on you've flown by Redoubt on the way out to Port Ellsworth. You can see that if you're close to it.
Yeah. I got some good views of that a couple weeks ago. It was really pretty. So, do you currently have an airplane?
I do.
What do you have?
I have a Stinson 108 of my own. It's in pieces. It's never flown since I owned it, but I bought it when I was down in the States.
Yeah.
And I have a Cessna 205.
Yeah. So, are you actively working on the Stinson?
I'm actively dreaming about it.
Yeah. And the 205, you get to fly that around?
The 205 I bought shortly after we moved up here and used it kind of like our minivan to get back and forth to Anchorage, get groceries back and forth.
Yeah.
And was like our transportation to and from Anchorage until the kids got bigger and they decided they'd much rather fly and ride in Lake Clark Air's larger twin engine airplanes because it didn't take as long.
Yeah,
so
45 minutes versus 2 hours.
But it worked. I've used it to take my son commercial fish for several years, so I'd take him down to Dillingham where he was fishing and pick him up and bring him back. So,
sorry guys, just off camera, we have a cat and a rabbit that we're not housed properly. We're not caged.
Free range.
Yeah,
cage free.
So, have you ever? You've primarily been a pilot, and you've worked at Lake Clark the whole time you've been back up here.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Nice. What do you have any exciting plans on the horizon as far as flying goes?
I'm not really looking to change anything
Yeah.
at this time. I'm happy with what I'm doing and enjoy it. And every year, even though I'm doing the same type of things, every year brings something new.
Yeah.
And every time I go out, I look at it as an opportunity to look for a new place, look for a different way to look at an old place.
Yeah.
And when we're out in the tundra, you're always looking for new places to land and scouting them on your way by.
Nice.
And someday you may give it a run,
Nice.
see how it works.
So back to you were talking about the logistics of living in Port Ellsworth. What's that like?
It actually got a lot easier after COVID.
Yeah.
Because before COVID, it was a little bit more difficult to get groceries delivered because of right now you've got like Uber Eats or Instacart, those kind of things, or even Fred Meyer, one of the grocery stores here. They have their own version of that where you can order online and have it delivered, and you can have it delivered to the air taxi, one of the air taxis. Yeah. And then they'll fly your groceries out for you. Prior to that, you had to find somebody that was working as an expediter to do so, and have a relationship with them and get that going, or come in, jump on an airplane, pay the seat fare to come into Anchorage and shop, and then go back out with it all. Right. So we would buy. We still have a Costco membership. You buy in bulk. You buy for 3 months at a time. You try to get as much fresh stuff as you can that you can, keep and not use. You try to not use it all at once and hope you have some left, and then you hope you don't waste any in the end. So it's a little bit of a challenge. It's doable. A lot of people do it. But yeah, it does take a little adjustment if you're not used to that.
Do you see yourself staying in Port Ellsworth for the foreseeable future?
I don't have any immediate plans to leave right now. So we over the last several years, we built a house there and built our own house, and been in it for 3 years now. We enjoy that. So
that must have been quite a challenge.
That was quite challenging. So there's the cost of building a house in rural Alaska is staggering. No better way to put it, I guess. The even logistics of getting material out there. That you can fly it out. You can fly it out on a larger freight outfit like Everett's Air Cargo or something like that, or you can barge it in from home or across, and then get on a series of barges and eventually get it into Lake Clark. I think it has to get on 3 different barges to do that, and 2 different land crossings. So, and you're doing that. You're planning, you're ordering, you're getting your material staged this time of year so that it can make the barges once May and June rolls around, and you would have all your material in by the end of summer. Hopefully everything's there. Or if you're flying it in, you bring in however many thousands of pounds at a time on the larger DC-6s. So there's you've got to increase freight costs. I probably have more in freight costs than I do material. Jeez. And I was able to, when we built and bought, it was before the big spike in building material costs.
Oh, that's good.
And then, doing concrete out in the village. They actually have a concrete truck out there now, a batch plant mixed truck, does small batch. So concrete's easier. It's still very expensive, but when I was doing it, we had the third yard mixers doing a little bit at a time, wheelbarrows.
That's wild.
Shovels.
So how long did it take to build your house?
So it's a little bit embarrassing. It took me like 7 years, but we paid for it as we went, and I built it as I could, and started out with doing the foundation work, letting that sit for the year. Next summer we'd have do the footers and put a deck on it, and then go for the walls next year, and then get the second story going and the roof, and then let it sit, wrap it up good, and then start doing insulation in the winter. Once we got it dried in, then we were able to keep going with working in the winter. Yeah. But until you get to that point, once the winter showed up, you could still do it, but my motivation to do that was not there.
Yeah. Especially
when 0 or 20 below, that's no.
Yes, no. It's a little rough.
Stuff breaks, including people. So.
Oh yeah. That's sweet. Carlon, do you have a call sign?
I don't actually.
No.
No.
Man, I would have thought that anybody on this podcast,
I don't really.
you look so surly than worthy of one. Well, Carlon Voran, thanks for coming on the Pyro.
Yeah, thank you.